What the fuck is up, everybody? We're breaking down UFC 297. We're breaking down the very anticipated main event. We've got Sean Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis in a very heated matchup. Lots of bad blood coming right up. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the 10-7 MMA, a very special edition. We'll be breaking down the main event, a detailed analysis and breakdown of Dricus versus Sean Strickland this weekend. And of course, I'm here with my guy, Dino Bam Bam. Dino Bam Bam.
What up, DS?
What's up, King?
How are you, brother?
I'm doing great, man. I'm very, very excited. It's not like the best card, but this is a huge main event. Obviously, you got the big boys throwing it. There's a lot of bad blood in this one. You've got two very unorthodox guys. Also, it's the guy that just made Robert Whittaker quit. That's basically my favorite fighter. But let's be honest, he made Robert Whittaker essentially quit.
Yeah, I mean, we were there. We were in the crowd for that one. I know Robert Whittaker, a huge year boy, and we talked about it. We talked about it a little bit before the fight. You're like, dude, I'm not going to be able to handle myself if this guy beats Robert Whittaker. I don't know how the rest of the night.
And I had a feeling he would. I had a feeling he would.
Yeah, and our boy Davey, shout out Davey, he's a huge Dricus fan. Davey had like $100-something on Dricus by knockout, and he was gloating, and I did not enjoy that.
You want to know the worst part about that?
Tell me.
This fucker, we were literally, because I was staying with Davey, so we were on the way out of the casino, out of the hotel, and this guy's like, "Do you about if you place a quick bet for me?" And literally all the bets, he had me doing parlays for him, and he was just swapping out Dricus and Robert Whittaker. Wherever I picked Whittaker, he just picked Dricus. And so it was actually me that made the goddamn bet and put in the Dricus bet for him, which hurt even more. The only redeeming part of that night was the fact that at least I got to see Robbie Lawler do his thing and have that awesome moment. So
and Volk's finish was awesome, and
Volk's finish, of course. We digress. Jumping back into it. Yeah, so you got a guy that made Robert Whittaker quit, and then you have a guy that literally just standing on the feet, basically didn't try any takedowns, beat the shit out of Israel Adesanya, who obviously is the most prolific striker, potentially this side of Anderson Silva.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
And now, not only is it these two guys going against each other now, it's these two guys going against each other for the middleweight title. And of course, there's a tremendous amount of bad blood between them. Sean Strickland, man, I don't know. First of all, I want to get your opinion on that. I mean, what do you think about Sean Strickland and his almost like feeling sorry for himself tour that he's doing right now? I know he's been through a lot. I'm not taking away from that, but it seems to me a little bit hypocritical. What do you think?
I mean, he broke it down today. Today was media day. They asked him about that. Yeah, they obviously asked him about that. And in a way, I kind of get what he's saying. He's saying that the things that I said about Ian Gary, the things that I said about Israel Adesanya, especially for Ian Gary, those things were put out there. Like, you were okay with it. You were comfortable talking about it. I don't know if that makes any sense for Adesanya, because Adesanya wasn't out there saying anything about his dog. So it is a little bit hypocritical, but, Sean Strickland's an absolute madman. He's a psychopath. And if you want to push the boundaries, let's find out. You know what I'm saying? He threatened Dricus with some intense stuff on Instagram. And
yeah, he said he was going to stab him.
Yeah. And
then, go ahead.
No, I was just saying Dricus kind of backed down for, I don't know, man. It is interesting, but I don't know if Dricus should test that, because I believe Sean Strickland. I think he is crazy enough to do what he's threatening to do.
Yep. Yeah. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, they're not going to be on the street this weekend. There's not going to be any stabbings. They both have the same weapons, right? So we really just wanted to dive into the meat and potatoes of this fight. And, we broke it down, obviously, on our full card breakdown. If you haven't seen that, check it out. Link below. He'll link it. But I really just wanted to dive into, the nitty-gritty of this fight, right? So let's start with Dricus, if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for Dricus, right? So the first thing that comes to mind for me is that this is a 5-round fight, right? Now, I've heard Dricus on many occasions and in different interviews saying that there was a time in his career where he was pretty much mostly fighting 5-round fights. That's all well and dandy, and he was, but he wasn't fighting for a UFC championship in a 5-rounder, right? He wasn't even fighting in a UFC fight in a 5-rounder. So I do think that there's a little bit of something to be said there too, right? So how's the cardio, right? We've seen him gas out, right? But it's weird because me and you have talked about this before. There are times when he looks like he's gassed out, but he's still charging forward and he's still doing real damage with the strikes. I mean, so it's going to be interesting to see, was the deviated septum a thing? Is it going to be a thing moving forward? Is it just an excuse, or is there more to it? Right.
Right. I mean, look,
yeah.
The deviated septum thing, right? Like the cardio is always a question mark with Dricus Du Plessis, because a lot of times when we've seen him in the UFC octagon, the dude looks absolutely gassed. Now, does he always come back from that and somehow find a finish? He absolutely does. I've heard a lot of commentators break down that he is the luckiest guy in the world, that he doesn't deserve to be where he's at, like skill-wise. He's not that. I don't know if it's...
You are somebody in that camp.
100%, because I mean, when you watch the guy technically, and I'm not knocking Dricus Du Plessis, it's just like when you watch him and you sit there and you break down the fundamentals and you try to watch, the boxing, the wrestling, the kickboxing, and just like nothing's clean at all. He's a wound up ball of energy, and he's just ready to explode at any time. He does the whole like Weili, Juliana Pena charging forward thing,
he does.
which is like,
I was watching. Sorry to interrupt you. I was watching him throw a flurry at Robert Whittaker, and it was literally like left hook, right hook, left hook, right hook, left hook, right hook, straight 1-2, 1-2, 1-2.
And he does all that while charging forward, and his legs look weird, and he's like, his body is, it's a unique looking body to say the least. He's like got a weird frame, weird legs. He charges in with weird attacks, and it looks like he's tired all the time, and he finds a way to do it, man. So there's something to be said about just being a winner. And I don't think we can take that away from Dricus Du Plessis. The guy is an absolute winner. He finds a way to do it. I don't know if it's luck. I don't know if it's skill. I don't know if it's like the voodoo and witchcraft that South Africa is known for. I have no clue what it is, but this guy always brings it and somehow finds himself on top. You think of the Darren Till fight. He was in some trouble. You think of Derek Brunson. Yeah, Derek Brunson, another fight where he was in a lot of trouble and just like found his way out of it. It's weird that the only fight he didn't find himself in any sort of trouble in was, or at least as of late, was the Robert Whittaker fight.
I know, dude.
I've been watching a ton of Dricus Du Plessis tape, like all his UFC fights, a bunch of his EFC fights. And even early on, when the dude was 20, 22 years old, like I remember in one of his losses, it was just like he got submitted by somebody, I think in like his 5th or 6th pro fight. And the guy he's so awkward, Dino. Like the scrambles are weird, but he ends up on top. The fighting is it's just not normal. And then you also have Sean Strickland, who's completely an anomaly, in his own way. This is a very unique matchup of two dudes that don't look the part, but they win fights.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, you pretty much broke it down right there. Did you know, by the way, that Dricus has the highest rate of strikes landed in UFC middleweight history?
Yeah, I actually came across that number today. I think he mentioned it either in his media day or embedded or something.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
I saw it somewhere else, but
yeah,
that's a crazy stat to me.
It's wild.
But, yeah. And then, so the other question to me is, right, is he going to be able to adjust to somebody like Sean Strickland, right? By the way, did you see Sean Strickland recently? He looks shredded.
Dude's got the 8-pack,
Dude, he's got the 8-pack, and his delts are popping. Like, he looks jacked, dude.
Yeah.
We've never seen him. So clearly, say what you will, and we're going to talk about Strickland in just a second here, but say what you will, but man, like, he has clearly taken this fight a little bit differently than most. That you can at least say that with certainty.
100%. He's been saying all this stuff about, the title doesn't mean anything to me, and even
he
if I
said that before he had it. I mean,
right, if I lose this fight, I'm back to the apex, and it's whatever. But like, he's taking it serious. The dude, he cares.
No question. Yeah. No question. So with Dricus, you mentioned his body a little bit. We saw him in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
And dude is massive. He is a big dude. He is jacked. He's not one of those guys that like looks skinny or whatever. He is a jacked dude. And I remember you saying like, just like, this guy's massive.
Yeah, dude, I was really tripping. I mean, I'm a big guy. You're a pretty big guy. And then I got to stand next to Dricus, have a little conversation with him for a couple of minutes. Dude's an absolute fucking unit. I was Really
That's a
shocked that an
perfect word.
85er looked like that. I mean, he looked like a 205er.
Dead ass.
Yeah.
Dead ass. And then the last thing with Dricus that comes to mind for me, right, is because first of all, he seems very calm. He seems very calm despite, whatever. And some people believe, there are those that believe that the little altercation in the stands was kind of set up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll never know, right? So I'm not even gonna sit there and speculate on that. The other question with Dricus, right, and with both of them really is the wrestling going to come into play at all here? For me personally, Dino, I don't think that it's even like there's no chance. The only way that I see the wrestling come into play is if Dricus drops Sean and isn't able to get a finish right away and just decides like, okay, I'm just going to work him on the ground now, right?
Yeah, I mean, Israel Adesanya, for what it's worth, picked Dricus Du Plessis by sub. We know he has a good ground game. We know, I mean, he's gotten a bunch of finishes via sub. Most of his fights end on the ground. I could think of the Brunson one. He finished it with ground and pound. The Till one, he had the sub, when he had Till's back. He's got a good ground game, but from everything we've heard, and we've talked about this every time Sean Strickland's fought, it's kind of like it's one of those things we hear about, but we never get to see it. And we hear that Sean Strickland has a really good ground game. So maybe we will see it. I don't think we see Sean Strickland push the grappling.
There's zero chance.
Right. But I can definitely see Dricus Du Plessis trying it. To me, Dricus Du Plessis, the biggest thing about him, I feel like he's a very cerebral fighter. He's like Sean Strickland's been saying all this stuff about, I'm willing to go in there and die. I'm willing to go in there and die. And I think that's how Dricus Du Plessis approaches fighting as well. The dude is going in there. He's always in trouble. He's sometimes flailing around on the ground, just grabbing people's ankles and knees and whatever he's got to do. He scraps for it. So I can see Dricus Du Plessis trying the wrestling and seeing if that's like an avenue to a win. Yeah,
for what it's worth, I don't think he's going to have an easy time taking Sean Strickland down. And you're right. Yeah. If there happens to be wrestling, I do believe that it will, in some capacity, be initiated by Dricus. I just simply, with all the emotions involved, with the tensions, with all the shit talking and the physical altercation, and knowing who Sean Strickland is, again, you said it yourself just now, we always hear that he's got good wrestling. We never see it. Yeah. Of all fights that Sean Strickland's going to fight, in this fight, I think there's absolutely no chance. So for what it's worth, Sean Strickland, I think he has like a over 70% takedown defense. So he's also very tough.
He's trained with Hamzat. He's trained with Magomed Ankalaev like extensively. I just feel like if you're training wrestling every day with Magomed Ankalaev, that it's more than Dricus Du Plessis. Let's just put it that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to Sean Strickland if you're ready to do so.
Yeah, I mean, let's go for it.
Yeah. So for Sean Strickland, for me, I think the number one question with Sean Strickland is, will the emotions play a factor here? Right? Mm-hmm. Because Sean Strickland, we've seen when he strays away from his game plan, right? Mm-hmm. And what happens, right? You look at the Alex Pereira fight. And it's interesting because leading up to that fight, if we're talking mentality, right, and the mental side of things, he was kind of like, oh, this big fucking Brazilian guy, dude. And like, he's like, okay. So it's almost like he was expecting to get knocked out, or if he was like having a built-in excuse in case he does get knocked out, right?
Yep. That's 100% what he was.
Exactly. So it's interesting how differently he's approaching this fight. But clearly he's very emotional. He literally threatened to stab the guy. Again, the physical altercation. So there's been so many things here. And like this whole week, in the last 10 days or whatever it is, he's literally spent talking in some capacity, maybe not about Dricus directly, but he's been talking about his mentality and, the things that Dricus said about him and all this shit, right?
Yeah.
So for me, is Sean Strickland going to come out emotional? Because we know Dricus is going to come out hot. And then this kind of ties into it. But for me, it's like, will the Philly shell hold up against somebody insane and crazy like Dricus, right? Where he's going to come out swinging. And if Sean Strickland's holding the Philly shell low or, whatever, he has to roll with the shoulder. Dricus throws a lot of unorthodox shit. Like you said yourself, he's not the most technical guy.
Right.
He's got a lot of power. And, I mean, he's still, say what you will, in his own way, he's got a lot of striking skill, right? Yeah. So is that Philly shell going to hold up? I know everybody was going crazy about it after that Adesanya fight. Like, I guarantee you it was one of the things that was trending on Twitter at that point. But against a guy like Dricus, I don't know, man. What do you think?
I mean, I love what Dan Hardy said about this. I watched his breakdown. It was phenomenal. I will link that for you guys as well in the description. But, you know, Dino, these are two fighters that do their best work when they're moving forward, right? So the old adage of like whoever takes the step backwards is going to be the loser in this one. I really do believe that. It's whoever's taking initiative and kind of pushing forward is going to be the person winning at least that portion of the fight for me in this one. Now, Sean Strickland, he does have the Philly shell. He does hold it up like somewhat low, and you know, it's unique, and there is definitely an opportunity to crack Sean Strickland. But we just saw a world-class striker in Israel Adesanya not be able to touch the guy in 25 minutes.
Unbelievable. Like, I can't stress enough how unbelievable that freaking fight was.
It was absolutely ridiculous. And then a guy like Dricus Du Plessis, he does a lot of his work kind of at range. He does like to push forward, but he doesn't necessarily like to be in the pocket. When he is in the pocket, Dino, he has a tendency to leave his chin up very high. Dricus Du Plessis when he's like exchanging in the pocket, but he does really well when a guy's like, you know, a few feet, 6-7 feet in front of him, but he's still able to kind of push them back. That way he can do that little flurry that, you know, that he always does. I just can't imagine that Sean Strickland, aside, you know, besides a hurt Sean Strickland, I can't imagine Sean Strickland moving backwards. And a guy like Dricus Du Plessis, for whatever, you know, he's broken down that the deviated septum's gone. They fixed his nose and whatever, and he could breathe better. I still got to believe there are some lingering mental effects about the cardio inside of him. I don't think he knows.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't think he necessarily knows how he's going to feel if this fight gets to the 4th or 5th round, right? But I do believe that we won't see the same Dricus Du Plessis that comes out 150 miles per hour in the first round. I think he's going to try to kind of like, you know, pace himself and try to get late into this fight, or, you know, however long he needs to go, but definitely pace himself so he's not burnt out by the 3rd round. So if Dricus Du Plessis starts slow in this one and Sean Strickland starts picking and prodding at him, and we find ourselves 7-8 minutes into this fight and Dricus hasn't really pushed himself, it might be too late for him. So I don't necessarily know if that's the right way to kind of go about this.
That's why that Strickland's winning at that point. He's winning the first couple rounds if that's the case.
I mean, if Dricus Du Plessis does not come out hot, yeah, I would have to assume that Sean Strickland's winning the fight. For what it's worth, I picked Dricus Du Plessis to win this fight. I picked him via knockout early, late first, early second round, most likely the second. But if he doesn't come out as the same Dricus we've seen, Dino, it might not be his day. Because I just think the later we get into this fight, the more of an advantage it is for Sean Strickland, who I know has the cardio, who I know can hold up for 25 minutes, who spars 15 rounds a day. I'm not worried about Sean Strickland's cardio. I'm worried about Sean Strickland getting caught in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel the exact same way. So, first of all, this is one of those butterfly fights, right? One of those nervous ass fights. So, you know, no matter how it goes, I don't really have a dog in the fight. I'd like to see Strickland win. I don't really mind Dricus. I think I don't mind him. I mind him less than you do, at least.
Yeah.
So,
which is weird because he's beating the shit out of your favorite fighters.
I know, but it's like, if I'm a hoe and some pimp beats my pimp, like now I'm his hoe.
Damn, that's how you feel? Your Dricus is hoe now?
I mean, I wouldn't say all that, but like,
you guys heard it here.
But listen, man, it's gonna be an exciting ass fight. As far as me, I feel the same way as you. I mean, I'm excited as hell for the fight itself, but yeah, for some reason, like it's almost like too good to be true. Like all this shit talked, he just beat Adesanya. It would be too good. Like it would be too much of a good, like too good to be true type story. If after all that shit, Sean Strickland also now beat Dricus, right?
That'd be awesome, yeah.
In my opinion, there's really only two ways that this fight is going to go. I see Dricus getting a knockout within the first 2.5 rounds. I'm going to say in the second round, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's going to happen. I do. Okay. I just think he's going to find the chin. And let's be real, right? It wasn't that long ago Sean Strickland was beaten by Jared Cannonier. You could argue that he won that fight, but I don't think Jared Cannonier is like some amazing. Like he's a really good middleweight. I don't think he's like amazing, right? At least me personally. Maybe I'm a little low on Cannonier, but. And it wasn't that long ago that we saw him knocked out by Alex Pereira, right? Again, big time power. I get it, but shit,
big differences though, you know.
Big differences, but I'm just saying, Sean Strickland is really, really good, and is certainly better than. And I'm giving him all the credit in the world. He's the goddamn champion. He's certainly better than I gave him credit for originally, and many people anybody gave him credit for early on.
Yeah.
Maybe his personality is part of that.
100%.
But before that, you know, he was almost like a journeyman kind of. He only has 5 losses. Let's not get it twisted, right? But you know, so there's really only 2 ways. It's either the first half of the fight knockout by Dricus, or Sean Strickland by decision.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
and there's definitely a possibility to me of a Sean Strickland by finish late as well. Like just a worn down, tired Dricus Du Plessis in the 4th round or 5th round. Yeah. So, I mean, his only 2 losses have been via finish. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but there's 2 things I do got to point out that are big question marks on the Dricus Du Plessis side, who, again, I am picking to win this fight, but it's the cardio. I wonder if the cardio holds up through 25 minutes. And then, Dino, it's the fact that I've seen the guy, like, I've seen him fight good fighters, but well past their prime.
That's true.
I mean, the Robert Whittaker one is, to me, that's an outlier, and we don't know. Maybe Robert Whittaker is done.
It could be the beginning of the end for Whittaker too.
It absolutely could be, but he beat Darren Till, who was well on his way out of the UFC. He beat Derek Brunson, who was out of the UFC after that. I think both of those guys were cut by the UFC after that fight. And then it's like, okay, I mean, Brad Tavares is good, and you know, he's fought some okay guys, but he hasn't necessarily fought anyone the caliber of Sean Strickland or the opponents that Sean Strickland's fought. I think Jared Cannonier would be Dricus Du Plessis' toughest opponent to date if he were to fight him this weekend. Adesanya obviously would be. Alex Pereira obviously would be.
You're right.
Abus Magomedov, for what it's worth, might be a tougher fight now than Darren Till or Derek Brunson was at the time. So yeah. So I mean, something we need to know. Those are the 2 question marks. Is the competition, is this finally like Dricus' ceiling in terms of competition? And the cardio, man, the big question mark of the cardio.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 question marks. Besides that, I think he has the power. I think he has the submission skills. I think he's in the right frame of mind as well. Dricus seems very calm this week. Very calm, very confident, very happy. But so does Sean Strickland. You know, I thought maybe he would come into this week with a lot of like animosity and anger, but he seems pretty chill this week. Dude, I'm just excited for a middleweight title fight. Middleweight's starting to become that division, you know. We talked a lot of shit about it over the last couple of years, but it's really starting to look good now.
Brendan Allen coming up. We're going to drop, and if you haven't been watching, why not? But we're going to definitely drop a state of the divisions. So basically breaking down each weight class, the up-and-coming prospects, you know, who we expect to be champion, things like that. So, yeah, super exciting fight. Cards kind of whatever. But, man, I mean, if you got to tune into this one. And like you said, man, Sean Strickland, he's really peaking right now. He is at his peak. So it's a pretty 50-50 fight. I don't know how – I just want to – at least for me, I just want to clear that up. Maybe 55-45 kind of thing, 60-40 max. So I don't know if the breakdown that we gave that, you know, impression, but that's basically how I feel. I mean, look at the odds. I think it was, last I checked, plus 100 for Dricus, minus 125 for Sean Strickland. Really a toss-up, right?
Yeah. So I mean, it's a toss-up, and I'm rooting for Sean Strickland. I'll be transparent. I'm a big Strickland fan, not the biggest fan of Dricus Du Plessis, as a lot of our viewers know. So I'm rooting for Strickland. It is a 50-50 fight. I'm just picking the guy that I think is a little more explosive and a little more dangerous in terms of being able to find a finish. That's really what it is for me.
I get it, man. I get it. UFC 297 this weekend. Huge fight. Decent little card. Dino Bam Bam, take us out.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, do us a favor. Hit that little subscribe button. Put the thumbs up. And in the comments below, let us know who you're rooting for. Are you for Dricus? Are you for Sean Strickland? And new and still, guys, he is DS. I'm Dino Bam Bam. We are the 10-7 MMA. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.